What's up, guys? This is John with Gaming Through the Decades, and I'm finally back with another pickups video after a couple weeks, and really because it's been kind of slow, especially at places like Goodwill and thrift stores, which is kind of where I like to get the majority of my games, because generally they're cheaper and I'm a cheap ass. So on that note, I picked up a few games, and I actually picked up an item that's not a game, but I think you guys will find it pretty cool. So let's go check it out. Alright, so first I'm going to go ahead and just start with the games that I picked up. There's really only a couple games this week, and when I mean a couple, I mean three. It was over the last 2 weeks, actually. It's been, like I said, incredibly slow, plus I've really kind of just been enjoying the games I currently have, which is nice. So the first one is a handheld game. It's a game that I've talked about previously in my channel, and it's a game that at one point in my life was very important to me because I played it a lot when I was deployed, and it really kind of kept me sane and kept my mind off of, things I didn't really want to be thinking about in an uncomfortable situation. So that game is actually Mario Golf for the Game Boy Advance. Mario Golf. It's golf and it's Mario, but in this case, there actually is a bit of an RPG element that, honestly, I just never really got into. I would just start it up and select my favorite character. Now again, like I said, this is a game, it's great, it's a great overall pastime game, Mario Golf is one of those games, it's like the ultimate pastime for gaming. And still, I have this game a lot with me when I'm at work, and if I have some downtime and I don't want to think about anything else, I throw this in and just kind of kill some time. And ironically enough, my 9-year-old really enjoys it too, so that's pretty cool. Now, the next game is a PlayStation. Next two games are PlayStation games, and they were on my list, so it was really nice to get these crossed off my list. And they're really, I think they're good games, and for the price I got them, I did get a good deal on them. And even though I did get them actually at a retro store. So the first game that I got is one that I've been looking for a while, and that's Oddworld Abe's Odyssey for the PlayStation 1. Oddworld Abe's Odyssey was released in September of 1997. Now, it was made by Oddworld inhabitants and published by GT Interactive. It also came out on Microsoft Windows and DOS. Now again, this is a game that I've obviously played before. I've never actually beaten the game. And I've never actually beaten a lot of PlayStation games, to be quite honest with you, because when I had PlayStation, I was in my early teens, and I still have it. I have like gamer ADD, where I'd sit down and play games, and I play like 6 games, and I wanted to play them all, and I never sat down and really focused on one game at a time. So lately, I've been kind of playing through this and trying to beat it, and it reminds me how good of a game it was, and for the graphics at the time on the PlayStation, even though it was sort of a side scroller for the most part of the gameplay, there's a lot of 3D elements involved, like when you switch different areas of the screen, it'll kind of pan across, instead of panning over, the camera will pan across, so that's pretty cool. And the CGI cutscenes were actually really good for that time. It's an overall good game. If you've never played the earlier first 2 Oddworlds for the PlayStation, they're real cheap. I picked this one up for about $7, and it's complete. The case is in okay shape. It's not in the best shape, but they're cheap games, and you'd be, I think, pleasantly surprised with them. Now, the next game is a very underrated game, in my opinion, and it's for the PlayStation, and it's a space shooter. It's an incredibly cheap game, and that is Blast Radius. Blast Radius is a space combat simulator released for the PlayStation in February 28th, 1999. The publisher was Psygnosis, and this was an exclusive title for the PS1, and initially the ratings were not very good. It wound up getting a 6 out of 10 by IGN. Currently, Cool Rom's giving it about a 4.7 out of 5. Now, like I said, this I think is one of the best space shooters I've ever played. And I know that's saying a lot because I know there's a lot out there. Just me, personally, I think it's like in the top probably 10 shooter games. And it's, like I said, it's a very underrated game. It's pretty difficult. You can pick essentially one of, I think, 4 crafts throughout the game, and you can upgrade your weapon system, and it's really good. Again, it's a game I've never beat, but it is real fun to kind of just throw on there and play it. It's a very, I can't stress it more enough, it's a very underrated game, and it's only like a $3 game. You could probably find it at a flea market for $1. And for that price on that game, it's really good. The graphics are good, it's challenging. The overall gameplay is incredibly smooth for that game, but it does actually make use also of the analog stick on the DualShocks, which is nice because there's a lot of titles that on the PlayStation that don't take advantage of that. So that's great for that. It makes maneuverability and everything a lot better. It's easy to track your enemies in this system. Other than like some, I don't know if you ever played some of the Star Wars games, like especially like the one for the 32X. Like it's incredibly hard to track your enemies, and this has a pretty good tracking system on it. But it's still a difficult game. It's not overly too easy, but it's a very good game. And like I said, if you're in the shooters, it would be a good game for you. So go ahead and check it out. All right, so I actually do have one more game, and it's a Sega Genesis game. And again, it was one that was on my list, and it's been kind of evading me. I haven't really seen it in retro stores, so I saw it about last week actually, and I grabbed it. And it's a mid-level range game as far as price goes, and it's a really it's not an uncommon game, but it's a game not many people have heard of, and that is Zero Tolerance for the Sega Genesis. Zero Tolerance was actually a late exclusive release for the Sega Genesis. It was released in 1994, and the developer was Technopop. As you can see, it's a first-person shooter, and it got really good ratings for its time. So as you can see, this is actually a first-person shooter on the Sega Genesis. And I heard about this game probably a few months ago, actually. I was just watching a YouTube channel. Can't remember who it was, but they were going over some Genesis games. And actually, you know what? I was actually searching Amazon, and I just put in like Sega Genesis games, and that title came up. I was like, oh, I never heard of that one. So I just punched the title of the game in on YouTube to look at some gameplay, and there it was. So I put it on my list, and it's a really good game. I mean, you think first-person shooter, Sega Genesis, not going to be very good because, you know, the graphics and whatnot. But really, the gameplay is so good in this game that you really the graphics don't even bother you. It's not quite as good as like a Wolfenstein 3D, maybe like a step below that sort of. But it's a good game. You start off, you're essentially in space, but you're on like these ships. So the setting, I guess, would kind of be maybe not like a Wolfenstein, but more of like you know what, I can't even think of it, but you're in an enclosed setting for the most part on like these spaceships. You can see the gameplay from what I posted, but you start off and you can select from like, it's about 4 different players. So when you die, that character dies. You can no longer use him, and you have to select another character. And each character has his own capabilities. So one might be a sharpshooter, the other one his expert might be in explosives. So that's pretty cool. Kind of like an early, Call of Duty where you had your different types of strengths and weaknesses. The only thing that I really had to get used to with this game was the heads-up display is huge, and you have like a very small section of just where you can kind of see, and you can't enlarge it, you can't make it bigger. So the HUD is like way too big. So that actually did take some getting used to. That's really the only complaint I have about that game. It's a really fun game, and it moves along well. It's not overly difficult. You do have to kind of plan which weapons you're going to use, because like a shotgun, obviously better for the slower enemies and the bigger, heavier duty type enemies. You do get a flamethrower at one point, and you don't want to use it on that enemy. You want to use it on like the little space things that jump around from the ceiling and that, so you can just kind of lay fire and kill them all. So it's a challenging game. It's really fun, and I would suggest pick it up. Like I said, it's a mid-level game. It goes for anywhere between like $10 and $15, and I got it for about $12 complete in box. But yeah, check it out. Really good game. All right, so my very last pickup actually is not a game, and I like stuff like this. And it was at a Goodwill, and ironically, when I got to this particular Goodwill, they had 3 N64 games in the glass case. And the first one I looked at when she opened the case up was a Cruisin' World USA. So I was like, oh cool, they got some pretty common N64 games. Maybe I'll get these, because I'm sure the price is going to be kind of low. Now, she pulls out the game. They're in one of those generic plastic cases that you can buy. This is no manual, and I look at Cruisin' World USA, and they had a price on there for $49.99. And I normally don't say anything to these places, but I just asked her. I was like, who prices your games here? And she's like, well, the guys in the back. I'm like, well, just so you know, this is like an $8 game at most retail stores, so that's kind of a ripoff, and they might be sitting there a while, but unfortunately they probably won't be sitting there a while, because someone's going to come in there not knowing a lot about retro games, and they might want to kind of start collecting games from their childhood and see that and spend the $50, unfortunately. So that kind of sucks. I wasn't even going to look at the rest of the Goodwill, but I'm glad I did, because I found this and I got a little bit of redemption for it. And this is a Nintendo 64 cartridge case, and this is an official case. This is really nice. It holds 12 games, which I have about 6 in there right now, and I got it for $3. So very good case. Like I said, it is a Nintendo official Nintendo 64. You can see that. You can see the whatever that is, trademark, or the R, whatever the hell. I don't know. Someone tell me what it means in the description. But yeah, it's in good shape, and it was, like I said, $3. So automatically I looked at it and I was like, oh, this might actually kind of be a good find. And even if it isn't worth anything, it's kind of cool to have stuff like that. And I looked it up on Amazon, eBay. They're selling for like around $30 to $40. So I got a little bit of redemption out of that Goodwill. In fact, when I went up there and I checked out, I said, hey, your games might be overpriced, but who's ever doing your pricing needs to be retrained, because, this is priced way low, which is what it should be anyways, because it's a Goodwill and your game's overpriced. So those are my pickups for the last 2 weeks. Like I said, it's been slow at Goodwills. I literally have not found anything. And I kind of, the flea markets around here and swap meets, it's nothing but resellers anymore. So luckily for me, I have a lot of, there's a few good, actually really good retail stores that are fair. That's where I got everything but the case. So the prices are fair. So I enjoy going there when I can and finding some stuff that's on my list, like the Zero Tolerance and the Blast Radius and Oddworld. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Comment below. Let me know if you guys found anything cool. Let me know if you found anything rare, or like maybe some crazy stories of some, asshole reseller or whatever. But thanks for watching the video, and we'll see you next time.